Thank you. Since we're talking about social media, we have a question about that. It says, given the challenge of dialogues on social media sites, what is the best way council should communicate their message? And we begin with Mr. McCarthy, I believe.
I think it's.
Do I have it wrong?
McGowan, I think.
Mr. McGowan,
Can
sorry.
you repeat the question?
Sure.
Please.
Given the challenge of dialogues on social media sites, what is the best way council should communicate their message?
Well, I think the council needs to do more town meetings. I think we've got a lot of issues within our city that we need to have some town hall get-togethers, and we need to lay out in a complete open book manner the competing resources and competing items that we need to fund with those resources. And it's best, in my mind, I'm maybe old school in the fact that I like to meet with people one-on-one or in groups such as this, rather than to try to take a distorted snippet out of a Twitter or a text message, which many times gets misconstrued, and you many times also don't know who the author is.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGowan.
Okay, I'm McCarthy, but I'll go.
Oh, no.
We're
Mr.
close.
McCarthy, yeah, right.
don't have to
You
stop
both
my
begin with MC, so,
Switch seats.
sorry.
So I agree with Dave on a lot of that, but I think we need a social media component. We have a lot of young residents and kids we want to get the message out to, so I think we need to tap all those social media things, the Twitter, the Snapchat, the Facebook, the EIEIO, whatever's out there. I think we need to tap all those resources to get the message out.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Peterson.
So the best way to communicate with, there's depending on what demographics we're talking about, right? So I know there are people that are so used to getting newsletters and they're not anymore because we're only doing newsletters once a quarter. So we need to keep that going. There's definitely a social media component of this, but the city is now utilizing more Facebook and more Twitter. Sign up for our accounts if you haven't. But I think the most valuable thing is still picking up the phone or talking to people face to face. Talk to the source. You know, there are so many people that are having misinterpretations or misinformations that are just out there. And when you read it 7 times, sometimes it becomes the truth that you live in. So to me, that's not a very good way to communicate. Call, write emails, face to face. This is also why I started doing the monthly walk and talk with the mayor, so we can have this face to face dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Malozzi?
So I think that the communication from the city council out to the residents is a multi-pronged approach, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. So after Measure D failed, we had engaged the Davenport Institute, which is the public policy arm of Pepperdine University, wanted to, actually we were an interesting test case, which I'm not sure you wanted to be an interesting test case, but they thought that we were a city that could use help with its communication. So for example, if you want public input on an issue, so I think when it's budget season and we're trying to figure out how to allocate our precious dollars, you need a town hall type forum so that people can come and give input. I think social media, is only really good if you're trying to have an outward message. So I need to tell you something and here it is. I also think the city website and newsletters need to be better, more dynamic ways of, it is another way of informing, but I think those could be much better tools.
Okay, Mr. Kemp?
So all the above is cumulative. Let me add to it. I think Facebook Live would be tremendous. I think that when you think of social media, you think, oh, young demographic only. But I think Facebook is actually starting to mix those demographics, and that an older population is starting to pay attention and to use that, whereas our kids look at us and they say, Facebook, you're crazy, I'm not using that. So that means it's working to me. So that's a wonderful one. Town halls are so important, and I don't see enough of them. And another to add is I'm frequently attending city council meetings as a member of the public today, and I tend to see the same faces over and over again. I think we need to actually encourage people to come because they're frustrated and they're seeing things in social media, et cetera, and they're not participating. So I'd love to actually see them here.
Okay, Ms. King?
I think this is something the city council can definitely improve on. I think we need to ask the questions when we're trying to communicate with our residents. Who are we trying to communicate with, and what's the purpose of the communication? The who in our city is very different. We have residents that consume information in many different ways. So I think we need to use a variety of sources. We need to use the newspaper, our newsletter, some types of social media, the social media that's coming from our city, emails. Some people have told me they would like more text, so we can do that lots of different ways. We also have engaged the Davenport, not just for Measure D, but to improve our citizen engagement and communication. And so the whys are, are we just trying to inform residents? Do we want to consult with residents, or do we want to collaborate with them? And so depending on the purpose of the communication, there are many different forums that we can use in terms of focus groups or town hall meetings or one-on-one conversations, depending on the purpose of the communication.
Thank you.